craftsmanship is dying out in Egypt. They are not proud of what you're doing. Go to one of these craftsmen, whether they're in Siwa, in Shalatin, or in Aswan, and you make a sample, and the sample comes out very nice, and then you come and place your order, you can wait often 3 months. So that's, for fashion, is not possible. It's we're going into sales, unsustainable. What are we going to do to push our designers to create their own DNA? Buying more Egyptian designers, encouraging more to start their businesses. We felt, even from before that the time has come.
Hello everybody, you're listening to the Behind the Scoop podcast brought to you by Scoop Empire. As we strive to get bigger and more important stories from people from the MENA region, we have an incredible person with us today. We have, I just want to make sure that I get this right because it's a very long term, a member of the board of the Egyptian Design and Fashion Council?
No, the Egyptian Fashion and Design Council.
It's the other way around.
Yes.
A founder of Egypt's Fashion Week, and of course a Passion magazine as well.
Yes.
Is that correct? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Suzan Sabet, of course. Let's start off with the very beginning. How did you get into fashion?
Well, I've been working in fashion as long as I remember. My mother used to have a factory for children's wear, so I used to, while I was even still studying, work with her in a bit of design, a bit of sales, a bit of production. So we had the stores, so we had the retail experience. Then a friend of mine opened a store and we were importing clothes. So we were the first people who sold Dior here in Egypt.
Okay,
it's a long time ago, and the other Italian big brands as well. Then what else did I do? By sort of coincidence, I was asked to do the fashion pages of an Egyptian magazine as a part-time job, which I did. After 3 years doing that, by that time my mother had also closed her factory. I said, there aren't any big fashion magazines still in the region. And so why don't I do a fashion magazine for the Middle East? At the time, it wasn't, Egypt wasn't, it wouldn't have been the core because there was no import officially or nothing. So it wasn't really a market. There were no budgets for Egypt. So I launched Passion in 2003. So that's 20 years.
Was it launched here first or was it abroad?
Yeah, well, the office is here, of course, but it was always a regional magazine. So we were always distributing in 9 Arab countries. And of course, for international brands, the beginning we'd get the budgets out of Europe or the States where the head offices are. Eventually when they opened offices in Dubai, so we'd get the budgets from there. So this has been 20 years now. Of course, the print has more developed into an online, there's been this big shift. So, and at the same time, I have a small consultancy where I've always worked with designers, whether local or regional, who wanted to start selling abroad or grow their brand, and also consult on international brands who want to enter the local or regional market. And in 2018, we got together, we were 5 people who are all with sort of in the fashion textile industry in Egypt. So it's Fatma Ghaili, Faza Fahmi, it's Marie Bishara, it's Abdelmalik Shamsi, Paul Antaki, and myself. And we founded the Egyptian Fashion and Design Council, which is a non-profit association meant to mentor and support the local industry, connect, etc.
Well, throughout the decades, or the past decades specifically, I think that fashion in Egypt has been evolving and being put on more on the map or recognized rather than before, I think. Or at least that's my point of view as a consumer. As a person from actually being in the field, what are your thoughts how the fashion industry has been evolving for let's say for the past decade?
Well, it's a bit more. I mean, I used to start as the magazine do fashion events. So we started that in 2008, and it was called Cairo Fashion Days, and the core of the exhibitors used to be international brands from multi-brand stores here. And I remember I used to have one room that had like, 10 Egyptian designers. Okay. And then, of course, the revolution happened. And for me, this was like the turning point. I felt we had our first, we had Cairo Fashion Nights in November 2011. Okay. Where already you had so many new emerging designers that were there, and at the time that really needed the support, because with the revolution, a lot of things sort of stopped, retail, etc., production, and also the Instagram hadn't boomed yet like it was, so you couldn't sell. So they really still needed events like this to showcase their design to sell. So I remember it was very nice. It was over 2 days. We took over the streets in Zamalek, where we had around 40 outlets where people would be, the designers would be positioned in different stores that were partners of us, like maybe a furniture store or an art gallery. And I always feel that the 2011 revolution sort of sparked this new wave of patriotism. Okay. We want to support each other. We want to wear Egyptian designers. So I think that was really the start.
So it's become a more local focused, people trying to get, instead of looking outside towards international brands, rather look inside here in Egypt. Okay, moving from that towards your latest project, the Egypt's Fashion Week.
Yeah, well, we since with this, starting more and more, and with Instagram, of course, pushing local designers, COVID, where people didn't travel, so buying more Egyptian designers, encouraging more to start their businesses. We felt, even from before that the time has come. We have a lot of good talents. We have a lot of course, big names, but we have a lot of young ones who maybe don't know where to go. They don't have the money. They don't have the reach. Okay. So nobody knows about them. And these actually are the ones that need the most support, because you have a lot of talents among them. It was supposed to happen before COVID, and COVID came. Everything stopped. Last year we were sort of ready, but then we felt that the international guests that were very important for us, the industry leaders, to come here to make this Fashion Week really an important event and get us coverage also internationally, weren't still ready to travel, still a bit scared. So the time was right now.
Okay, it took like 4 years in the making to make Egypt's Fashion Week. Can you tell me the concept of the very beginning, at the very, very start? How did that start?
Well, the concept, because since I'm a fashion journalist, I've been going to fashion weeks for over 20 years. So I see this different structures, the different setups of fashion weeks. And for me, I always felt that for us, the right thing would be to model it on the model of Alta Roma Fashion Week, which is actually considered the jump start for young emerging talents, whether they're Italian or international, that they invite. So you have this combination of runway shows, you have the combination of exhibitions, of industry talks, and also a bit of the business side, where you invite a bit of the buyers, a bit of, people that could connect with you. So that was the structure, actually.
Okay. And besides COVID, were there other challenges that you faced along the way and you overcame? Can you tell us about them?
Many. First of all, when you're a first, people are always skeptic. Okay. So, will this work? Will this succeed? Shall we tap in now? Shall we wait? Let's see the first one. But if everybody thinks like this, there's never going to be a first one. Yeah, so, of course, the biggest challenge is financing. Okay. This costs a lot of money. I mean, just flying in all these people from abroad, this is a huge budget. I mean, this is, and especially with the devaluation that also hit us now, that came on top of it. So financing is the biggest challenge, which goes then hand in hand, of course, with the trust. Are you going to trust me, and are you going to support me from the first edition? Then, of course, you have challenges like licenses, getting sort of getting everybody on board. And that's why for us it was very important, because I've never done a fashion week myself, right? I've done fashion events, fashion days, but not something on this big scale, and nobody in Egypt has.
Okay.
So I said, okay, we have to hire a professional company who's been doing fashion weeks. So we hired creative heads who've been organizing fashion weeks in Austria, in Thailand, taking Austrian dinner to Berlin Fashion Week, to Paris Fashion Week. So we hired them to, give us the know-how and the experience, because it's a whole other ball game.
I think in bringing them as well would increase the trust that you want from.
Of course, you need the designers to trust you. Of course, you are. It goes both ways, and of course we are extremely grateful for everybody who did trust us. Whether it's designers who said, "Okay, we're going to be with you." Okay. Or as partners and sponsors, and media, of course, because media is very important. And of course, internationally, we've had amazing support from industry leaders and from media. So we are very grateful for everybody who's helping us.
When it comes to designers, this year's, or the first Egypt Fashion Week, had 70 designers, not just only showing off, there were workshops and others. How did the selection happen? Was it just people just approach you, or were you just focusing on the new brands, or a mix of both? How did that happen?
So we have the EFDC, the Egyptian Fashion Design Council website, where we have a database. So we send out, this is going to happen. Sign up. So they could sign up for different categories. So you have emerging designers, established designers. You have solo exhibitions, solo runway, group, depending what you want, and also, of course, how much you're willing to pay. Okay. Because even with the sponsors, because it's not only about getting extra funding in, and I mean it was between 5,000 to 30,000 pounds to an established brand, a big brand, which for them it's really not much. And we're giving you models, we're giving you everything. You just bring your clothes. Okay. So hair, makeup, sign, pictures, videos, location, international press, everything, local press. So actually we're giving you much more value than what you're paying for. But it's also about commitment, because when somebody pays, they're committed. Yeah. And we've seen it before with events or initiatives that we did, where we'd get designers on board without charging them, where they could drop off a few days before. Okay. Because
they didn't pay, so they weren't committed.
They're not committed. Yeah. Okay. So that's of course a very important part of the equation, and so. We advertised it, some that follow us, it was advertised on our social medias and everything, so people would apply. Okay. And then we started selection. So I think we had around 180 that applied. Okay. Of course, we had people that are good, but they're pregnancy wear. It just doesn't fit, and it's a very basic thing. We also wanted to show our creativity. We wanted to show our quality, and also open up, conversations with international guests that would be, for instance, coming from Saudi, coming from Nigeria, coming from other markets that are seeking production. So children's wear,
won't work.
It's not going to work. So, and of course, if we feel that is a brand that's basically copying somebody else, I mean, this is where is our creativity here. We want to have originality and your own DNA.
And with that, of course, as you said, you provided the models, the locations. Specifically, the locations were very diverse. Some had historical significance, others didn't. How did the selection of those places?
Well, since I've been going to fashion weeks for so long, and then you go to, they take you to the most fabulous historic places. Okay. So, and sure, our Egyptian international guests, they don't want to sit in a ballroom or a conference center, and we have all this to show. And it's a lot of. I mean, if they post, they all have a lot of followers. They're all in the fashion and luxury industry. So it's nice for them to post within the museums, because this is interesting for them. He's not going to post himself in a ballroom, right?
It's mixing essentially pleasure with business, that you are having fun while.
Of course, yes, of course. You're seeing, and I remember since many years, because when I go, I have a lot of international friends, journalists abroad. abroad, and they always tell me, Susan, make us a fashion week. We want to come to Cairo. Everybody wants to come to Egypt, right?
Of course, yeah.
And we have so much to show. I mean, next year I can put another 5-6 locations. So of course the museum downtown is magnificent.
Of course.
I mean, to be inside there is just it's wonderful. Even for all the Egyptians, it's wonderful. And then the Museum of Agriculture is another, for us, a big gem. Most of the people in Egypt even don't know it. Haven't been there, so they're like, where's that? So it's interesting for them. And it has the Cotton Museum inside. So the Cotton Museum, of course, is tied to us. Fashion, textiles, cotton. This is a big part of the textile industry, of the backbone of fashion in Egypt.
Yeah.
So being there, and it's an amazing venue. It's been closed for 5 years. So they opened for us now.
Okay.
They closed again. So when the final renovations.
If you were there, you were very lucky.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful.
Okay.
I mean, it's almost 100 years old, and it's the second most important agricultural museum in the world. After Budapest. And when King Fouad went to Budapest and saw the one there, he told them, please come and do the same thing here for us.
Okay.
And so it has a lot of history.
Do you have a favorite, or is it the cotton one?
Well, for me, the Agricultural Museum has been one of my favorite museums in Egypt since I ever thought about doing the event there.
Well, moving from that, the main tagline for the Egypt Fashion Week was past, present, and future. The past, looking at our history and culture, present, where we are now, and future, of course, is the vision for the future. Do you think, or do you believe that this year's, the first one, has been able to successfully provide that in their...
Well, yeah, I think along with the opening night, I mean, we are inside the past, right? The designers were inspired by the past, but made it look modern, contemporary for today. So definitely the opening night. And like I said, it's always this, we try to push for designers to create their own DNA based on their own culture. So there's always this debate, do you have to? As an Egyptian designer, do you really have to be inspired by Egypt? But and everybody, I mean, every designer in the world wants to go international, right? Even a German designer wants to be in Paris or Milan. So it doesn't matter where you come from. And and that's why we've been doing, for instance, some of our mentorship is taking some of our designers to London Fashion Week or Paris Fashion Week, not to show yet, because showing costs a lot of money. And but to go around and see where does my brand fit in? Okay. Or are there 1,000 other brands that do the same like me, basically, and are better priced and have better quality? Then I have no place. Then I'm going to go there, spend a lot of money, and come back without results. So if you create your own DNA, use our craftsmanship, which is very important, because that's another thing we want to push, because craftsmanship is dying out in Egypt, because they are not proud of what they're doing. And that's this vicious circle. So when you as a fashion designer go to one of these craftsmen, whether they're in Siwa, in Shalatin, or in Aswan, and you make a sample, and the sample comes out very nice, and then you come and place your order, you can wait often 3 months. So that's, for fashion, is not possible. It's we're going into sales, unsustainable. For home decoration, it's okay, because it's not really seasonal, right? Yeah. So this is a big problem. So you have this circle of, okay, shall we promote? What are we going to do to push our designers to create their own DNA? Then, of course, you always have this...
ever-changing trends.
I mean, the whole world is inspired by Egypt, right? So you already had in the 1900s, 20s, you had Le Retour d'Egypte, where Cartier, a lot of the brands were all inspired by Egypt. And now you have, of course, you've seen the Chanel show, Balmain, I mean, plenty, right? Messica, who was speaking, one of our speakers, beautiful high jewelry collection. So then you get into this argument of some designers saying, oh, but they're stealing our culture, they're stealing our DNA. But who owns the DNA? I mean, the Arab or Egyptian designer goes to Paris and is inspired by the Louvre or the Mona Lisa. So
can you design something like that?
Why can't somebody be inspired by the pyramids or, or something else in Egypt,
the whole
right?
political, cultural appropriation part.
So this is a very, who owns what? Am I as an Arab designer allowed to go, like every designer travels for inspiration,
Yes,
right?
of course.
So why can't people travel to us to get inspired? On the contrary, it's good PR. It gives you visibility worldwide. It makes you beautiful.
Exposure
so
as well.
The only thing where we get into a problem is that when somebody, whether it's an international or a local designer, produces here and pays very little.
Okay.
This is then where we're going into exploitation.
Okay.
Because you're selling your product very expensive, but you're paying very little to the local craftsman.
Okay.
And this is the cycle where we get in. When people pay very little, this person is not inspired to do more, to work. Their children don't want to be craftsmen because they're associated with labor.
Okay.
So they want to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer.
So we're losing people that
We're losing.
know the crafts.
It's a big problem we have, and there is a lot of associations. There's a lot of people who are trying to work on it, and they're doing a great job. But it needs more, and it also needs the designer to
show
them.
off.
I mean,
use
who are we
them.
going to produce for?
Yeah, of course.
So craftsmanship is a big issue also.
You just previously talked about how big brands are looking at Egypt and doing shows here. One of the biggest, I think, recently was Dior at the Pyramids.
Yeah.
Do you think that these were a catalyst that led to the success of Egypt's Fashion Week, or at least contributed to put the eyes toward the area, or were you already having talks behind the scenes that made it a
for us, we've been, since in the plan for 4 years,
Yeah.
so everybody abroad knew about it. I've been, every time I go and say, okay, you're coming. So is it happening this time? I say, yeah.
Are you sure?
We're not going to postpone again, And then COVID came, and then and we had last year we had an event during Paris Fashion Week where the Egyptian ambassador in Paris hosted us graciously in the embassy and then in the residence to present some of our designers, because Paris, all the press is there, so we wanted to benefit of that. So already have a pre-launch event there. So people, it was already advertised sort of to a thing, but of course then events like Dior, and then before you had in Luxor, in Hatshepsut temple. Foreigners love Egypt.
Yeah.
They want to come, and I always say, it's really, I think, one of the very few countries in the world. You don't even have to run advertising campaigns or promote it, because every school child in the world takes your history in school and wants to come and see the pyramids and wants to see Tutankhamun,
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer. And
Just
get people here.
Adding that with it, because of course the ancient Egyptian culture had a lot of, let's say, not work. How about it? They had a lot of fashion sense that still resonates today. That's what I was trying to get. From jewelry,
and the jewelry,
from
and if you go and look into,
innovation.
if you go into the museum and go into the tomb, the exhibition of the tomb of Tutankhamun, look at the jewelry. It's amazing.
If anybody would take one message out of the Egyptian Fashion Week, what would it be?
There's a lot of messages coming out.
How about your favorite message out of all?
Right now, we're still so immersed in the preparing the press releases that have to go out today, the image selections. We have thousands and thousands of images and videos that have to be selected and sorted and picked to go to different press. And, I say, there's a lot of things that didn't go as planned.
Okay.
And, that's that was to be expected to a certain extent, because it is a very, very big project. It has so many different categories, so many things to look at, from media, travel, photography, speakers, panels, logistics, production, show production, music, lighting. Is huge. So a lot of things didn't go as we wanted it. In the overall, we're very happy because we feel, especially the talks were extremely successful. Okay. We had amazing speakers, local and international. in all different sectors, and they really added a lot to Egypt Fashion Week. I mean, just alone for us to be able to get Imran Ahmed, who is considered the most influential person in the fashion industry, to come here and to do the opening session was amazing. And that's an amazing support by him. And you know, Manuel of Vogue, Bilal of Rotana, Jamila Sharq al-Awsat, Zainab from Kuwait, Shireen from Jordan, Lagos Fashion Week, or Miami, Diane Pernay, Risha Pastou from... So there are really a lot of people here. Educational, Adrian from Academia Costume and Moda, Shivang from FAF. So it's just too many to name them all yet, right? But their support really added so much value to the Fashion Week.
Well, you just said that there were a few things that didn't go your way. Was there something specific that you wish didn't happen this year, but you're going to implement it next year?
No, I mean, as the program, we just would need another day.
Okay.
I mean, it should be a day longer
Standard.
because honestly, because the talks took longer because they were so interesting. There's so many Q&As. So fitting in all the talks and trying to have them not at the same time as a runway show proved a bit difficult. Okay. So another day would have been good. That's definitely it. As the program, I'm very happy with everything, how it went. It is just a bit of, you know, delays here, delays there, production. These are the things that made a bit of pressure for us, time-wise. Because also you have to understand that the Egyptian Museum downtown is open to the public all day.
Yes, of course.
So
even while doing the whole catwalk
we couldn't access only 3 hours before the show.
Yeah, of course.
Which, of course, is before the people come. You have from 5 to 8 to start putting platforms. Some of them were already there, but putting back, moving in backstage, setting up the backstage, getting in the girls, starting dressing. So it's putting the chairs inside, fixed because the lighting was installed the day before, but it was high up. Putting it in the right position. Okay. So this is a big job. I mean, you're putting 560 chairs in things. You're putting the cushions. You put all alone this, and then outside setting the tables, making them ready. Setting up the camera crews, going in, models getting ready. Okay, hair makeup was done before, but final touch up. So it is very tight. Putting up.
Go.
It's go, and 3 hours is extremely tight for that.
Well, talking about the Egyptian Museum, is there a certain place that you haven't picked this year that you'd love to add next year?
But I'm not going to tell you. We already. But it's going to be a surprise. We already thought of some very nice locations. It'll definitely be Cairo because somebody was saying, "Why don't you do Luxor?" Yes, Luxor is very beautiful. And even if we can do the logistics of flying down the models, the hair, the makeup, the designers, building catwalks. But what about the crowd? Are you going to fly down 10,000 people to come and watch your shows? It's not going to happen.
Almost impossible.
So, you know, I mean, who will? I mean, I'm not going to pay for 10,000 people to fly them down, right? And that's more or less the traffic we had over the 3 days, or the 4 days now with the Mall of Arabia, even more. So you cannot do that, and you cannot rely that 10,000 people will buy a plane ticket and book a hotel to come to Luxor to see Egypt Fashion Week. So yes, it would be beautiful. It's beautiful for a private event on a small scale, where you can, but not for a fashion week.
Maybe later on, after we had like 5 or 6.
It depends.
People are now willing.
You need the crowd. You need the crowd to come. They make the event, because if nobody comes and sees these designers on the catwalk, they'll be disappointed and it'll be very, empty. So Cairo, everybody's here.
How about this? If you can't tell me what location they have next year. It's
definitely going to be historic.
Okay, can you give us a little glimpse of what to expect from Egypt Fashion Week next year?
Well, so definitely be a day longer, because we want to give much more time to the talks and the shows, and not cross them, overlap with them, and
make sure
be in Cairo. That's for sure.
So we're not going to Luxor.
No, it's
make sure.
And it's going to do all this effort and sit basically just among ourselves.
And well, it being in the summer and Eid and everything like that, that wouldn't be a problem, or
no, that will be a problem. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you have to find the right timing so you don't overlap with International Fashion Week or big fashion events or Cannes Film Festival. Not in the Ramadan, not in the Eid. You know, so
and workers
spring,
are taking them off as well,
and then not to get too hot.
Oh, of course.
So and then people going off to summer holiday, right?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Well, is there something that you'd like to add that hasn't been said so far?
I've said it so much. I don't know. No, I'm just like on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank everybody who was with us, especially the sponsors who make it happen in the end of the day, and the partners who really amazing partners who came in with their expertise, their products to help, you know, and they're all people that are basically on the same wavelength, engaging the community, helping elevate our craftsmanship, showcasing our designers, showcasing talents, and really and strive to show those that deserve to be mentored. I mean, even like from the finance point of view, we had talks from 3 amazing ladies who are all who support startups financially, angels, VCs, who were there to say, okay, come and talk to me, show me what you have.
Do you have a message for anybody who, be it a brand, be it just a person who is interested in fashion, how to get into the industry, or how to get into, if it's a brand, how to get into the next Egyptian Fashion Week?
Just call us.
It's that simple.
Just call us.
If somebody wants to get into that same industry,
but somebody who's still starting.
Yes.
Well, one of the panels, of course, with Azza Fahmi and Radian, a lot of educate as well about, you know, the importance of formal education. Okay. Because you want to be a successful fashion designer, you have to know your trade. Okay. You have to know that even if you, in the end, you have a big atelier and you're going to run it, but you have to know that if I have 100 meters of fabric, it's going to give me 50 pair of pants. Okay. So nobody can even trick you and say, oh no, there are only 20.
Okay.
You know, so you have to know your trade. And I also always advise a creative person is a creative person. They're not business minded. Okay. They're not marketing minded. They should just concentrate on being the designer, being creative, and should have a business partner who takes care of the rest. Okay. But this, of course, is not easy for a young brand. And a big challenge we have in Egypt and in general in the Arab world is that if you look at Europe or the States, how many of young graduates from fashion schools actually do their own brand? Very little, very little. They all go and work for fashion brands, work for fashion houses.
Learn, get
They
experience.
learn and even stay there. I mean, Maria Grazia Curie never had of Dior, never had their own brand. Pier Paolo Piccioli never had their own brand. They're doing their career for a big brand, with a big brand. Okay. So here, that's very difficult. Okay. Where will they go? They have a few big fashion houses who would take them where they could learn. And so they all fall back in doing their own business, which in the end it's a business. So yes, even if you have somebody who finances you, if you have enough money, after 1, 2, 3 years, if you're having losses, you will stop.
You'll shut down.
You'll shut down. So this is something that makes it quite difficult here for young designers to grow. And I mean, this is the one thing that also I wanted to add when we're talking about the events we used to do, and which were commercial events, Egypt Fashion, Cairo Fashion Nights. At the time, people needed it because the brand, the boutiques, the shops that were here were mainly selling international brands. They were not selling local brands. And this has changed. Now all the multi-brand stores here want to put the Egyptian designers because they realized they have a following and they're good and they drive traffic into their store. So actually all the good brands really don't need much of these shopping events anymore.
Okay.
Because the professional thing to retail is being a store.
Okay.
Whether it's your own or somebody else's as a retail, because that's how retail is done worldwide.
Okay.
This is how you can grow.
Well, first I'd like to congratulate you on a very
Thank
successful
you.
first Egypt Fashion Week, and wish you the best luck for the second, third,
Thank
fourth,
you very
fifth, and
much.
sixth, and 100th.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hopefully biannual soon. You
Okay.
know, twice a year. That is the aim eventually.
Awesome.
Right now we're just happy with the number one and working on number two.
Okay. And well, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
here. And you have a great evening and have a great fashion
you
weeks
very much.
for years to come.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening. If you're checking us out on YouTube, please like and subscribe.